Hello everyone, this is Ed, and this is a demonstration of a new service from GolfStats called GolfIQ. GolfIQ is a premium set of services that's layered on top of the existing GolfStats site, and you can get to GolfIQ by either going to the golfstats.com homepage where I'm at now and clicking on GolfIQ Home, or you can go directly to golfiq.com. So if I click here, I'm taken to the GolfIQ homepage, which includes the current set of services that are offered to GolfIQ members. All GolfIQ members also get access to all of GolfStats, which I cover in another video. And you can sign up for monthly or annual plans, and with the monthly plan, you get a free 3-day trial. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you a coupon you can use for 20% off your first year of monthly charges or your first year of your annual GolfIQ membership. So I'd like to show you briefly what's included in GolfIQ. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to first show you a demonstration of the newest addition to GolfIQ, and that's the GolfIQ Top 10. So we know that a lot of our members use DraftKings to play their golf fantasy games, and people use other golf fantasy games that are similar to DraftKings, so this applies to them as well. What we do every week is we track for every player in the field, and this is for all majors, all PGA Tour events, and then quite a few European Tour events as well. We track every week the salary that it costs for every player to add them to their team. And then after the tournament's over, we also record how many points those players earned in that tournament. So it gives us some return on investment statistics that we can use on our site. So what we do here is we look up, where we calculate for the previous 8 weeks prior to this week's tournament, which is the Arnold Palmer Invitational. We track and see which players produce the best return on investment, meaning which players produce the most salary, most points, given the amount of salary. And we list here those top 10 players in this field that had the highest average points per $1,000 of salary, and they're listed over here. We also list their world rank, how many events they played within the previous 8 weeks, their salary this week, their average salary over the past 8 weeks, their average points over the prior 8 weeks. And then using the total numbers that we have, we calculate their points per $1,000 of salary. So you can see Seth Straka, who was the winner last week, is leading this week as far as average points per $1,000. And they have Sahith and Kevin Kisner, Lanto Griffin, etc. So these are the top 10 players in terms of their average points per $1,000 of DraftKings salary, or the best return on investment. A couple other things you can do from this page. If you click the player's name, you can go to the player's profile page right there. And if you click here, you'll see the full DraftKings statistics that we have for this player going back over the past 12 months, where we compute every week these numbers, the points per $1,000, and we list their statistics for that tournament. That's what DraftKings uses to calculate their points. You can also click down here to see the report for the entire field. And you can also go back to our homepage. One thing we also allow you to do from this page is you can go back in time and look at a previous tournament. So I could go back to last week's Honda Classic, and I click on Go. And since this tournament's already occurred in the past, we show here how the player ended up finishing and how many points they earned and what their points per $1,000 salary were that week. So you can see here Sepp Straka won, and which players made the cut and which ones didn't. And you can go back as far as you want, or you can go back anywhere over the previous about 8 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks. So we go back to the waste management. and look there as well. And if I click go, then I go back to the homepage. So that is the Golf IQ Top 10. And thanks for watching. Okay, now let's look at the Golf IQ composite rankings. So every week on GolfStats, we compile from the PGA Tour 36 different tour statistics, such as birdie average, stroke gained, par 5, etc. What composite rankings allows you to do, it's very simple but can be very effective, is to use those 4 of those statistics to rank the players in this week's field. So this week we have the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Let's say that this is a course that's kind of known for rewarding shot makers, small greens. So I'm going to pick 4 statistics that I think would be relevant to use to rank players in those fields. I'm going to pick greens in regulation, putting inside 10 feet, stroke gained putting, and par 5s are always key at Bay Hill, so I'm going to pick par 5 scoring average. You can pick any 4 values you want, and again, I'm doing it for this week's field, and I'm going to click go. So what we've compiled now is a ranking of the players in the current field using those 4 statistics. So we list the field, we list composite rank. I'll explain how that's computed. We list their world rank and their DraftKings salary. And then we list the 4 statistics that I picked in the previous screen. We list the actual number. So I picked greens in regulation percentage. The tour average is 67.98. Matt is at 70%, and that ranks him 43rd of all PGA Tour players going into this week. His putting inside 10 feet, tour average is 87.94% of the time they're made. He's at 91, that ranks him 2nd. Stroke gained putting, .686, that ranks him 12th. Par 5 scoring average, he's at 4.3, that ranks him 3rd. So we add up all these rankings, 3, 12, 2, 63. He has a composite ranking of 60. That places him the best in the field going into this week. Second is Jason Kokrak, only 1 behind. And then what's interesting is you have to go all the way down to 91 to get the next highest ranked player. So that means that if using these 4 statistics, and again, you can pick whatever 4 you want, these are the 2 best players heading into this week. So again, simple to use it, pretty simple to do, see the results quick, can give you some good insight into this week's field. Let's see how those 2 do. We'll have to watch the results this weekend. Okay, thanks for watching. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the Golf IQ Player Guide. The Golf IQ Player Guide, you generally look at it for the field for the upcoming event. That's the default selection. You can also look at it for the top 100 players in the world ranking, or you can pick a player. We basically calculate these statistics every week for roughly the top 1,000 players in the world rankings. So by default, it shows you the field, and I can pick on any player here, and then I'll look at their player guide. Now, this is really a player guide on steroids. It shows you as much detailed information that we can compile based on our database, which we update almost daily, and we've been doing it for about 30 years. So it shows you all the statistics we have for this player, and we compile all the statistics we can to give you an indication for this player's career performance and performance going into this current tournament. So the first thing we start with is, for the current tournament, what their results have been over the past 10 years. You see those listed here. You can go to a link for the tournament page for that tournament here. And then we summarize all their statistics overall, all time, in this tournament. So you can see for Paul Casey, he's played in 8 of these events, 25 rounds, scoring average, wins, top 10s, 25s, etc. Next, we show this player's tournament record over the past 12 months. And we cover, again, we include here PGA Tour, European Tour, and majors. And we show their tour statistics over these tours over the past 12 months. And then we finish this section off with summarizing their performance and results over the past 12 months, all their career majors, and all their career results. Events played, average place, wins, top 10 percentage, top 25, cuts made, rounds in 60s, rounds played, rounds under par. Within 5 shots of the lead, entering the final round, the percentage of times they were within 5 shots of the lead, scoring average, and money. And what's neat about any of these tables in this section is you can sort them by just clicking on the column header. We'll get into more of that later. We also comment and note, make some comments on the strengths of their game and their best and worst tournaments from our perspective. Next, we get into some more detailed information. This will break down their career performance per month. And again, we have the same set of columns we had before, but what's nice is that you can now sort. We have top 10s, but generally what's more important is the top 10 percentage. So if you want to see which events this player, Paul Casey, what months he's had the most percentage of top 10s, it would clearly be September. So he's probably a good bet in September. You can do the same thing for cuts made. He's made all of his cuts in November, 90% of his cuts in October. So he's a good fall player, it looks like. Rounds in the 60s, rounds under par. So you can sort by any of these columns to kind of get more detail on this player's performance on a monthly basis. We also break it down on a seasonal basis. So you can look at this player's performance in spring, summer, fall, and winter. And probably not surprising, his top 10 percentage. Oh, it's 28% in the spring, 27% in the fall. Let's look at rounds under par. 69% in the fall, 59% in the winter. We also break it down per swing. This is a term used to denote groupings of tournament kind of based on their geographical location. So we have the West Coast swing, the Florida swing, New England courses, Texas swing, desert courses, ocean and sea courses. So we can see if we get looking for top 10 percentage, Paul plays well on desert courses and has played well in Texas. We look at their performance per grass type, and this would be for the greens. So we have bent, Bermuda, Paspalum, Poa, and Fescue. And then we look at if there's any indications on short or long courses, a course less than 7,000 yards or a course greater than 7,400 yards. We include those statistics as well. So that's basically the player guide. Again, it's available starting on every Monday for the top players for all the players in the field. And you can also look at it on an individual player as well, or the top 100 in world rankings. So thanks for watching. Okay, let's take a look now at the Golf IQ Matrix. The Matrix is the most detailed and analytical part of Golf IQ, but it can really help you get some insight into a player's history going into an event. So if you remember, briefly review, when we looked at the player guide and we looked at an individual player, let's say Paul Casey, we showed you a lot of information about Casey's career performance using a lot of variables, a lot of categories. So we looked at tournament records, career results, but it also looked at performance per month, per season, per swing, per greens grass type, and for long and short courses. So what Matrix allows you to do is Matrix allows you to look at all the players in the field using a subset of those values that you see in the player guide. It would be impossible for us. There's too many categories of information to spread them all out on a screen, but we allow you to pick two categories of information to use those to compare the players in the field. So let me show you how that works. So let's say I'm going to look at the field for the Arnold Palmer. I want to pick two categories. So these are all the different categories of information we had in the individual player guide. So I might want to pick the Florida swing, since this week we're at the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. And then since we're playing this week on Bermuda greens, I might want to look at Bermuda greens. So I have field, my two columns picked. I want to include DraftKings data, and we're going to optimize columns. So then we're going to click on Go. Now, so what I'm looking at is the entire field, and then I pull out information from the player guide based on my selections on the previous screen for these players. And the power of this is that not only do I have all this information on the screen for every player in the field, but I can sort by column. So let's say I wanted to look at which players in the field for their career have had the best top 10 percentage. And it just takes one click on any column header to sort by that column. So in this case, I have Lee Hodges, number 1. He's played in one event. He finished in the top 10. Tommy Fleetwood has played in 12 events. He's finished in the top 10 in 7 of them for 58%, and so forth. So I see the top players by percentage of Florida swing. Now I can also come and look at the associated, my second column of information, to see how they did over here. So this would have an indication of how they've done on Bermuda greens for their career on any course with Bermuda greens. Lee Hodges has played in 8 of them. He's made the cut every time. And also his DraftKings salary is only $6,600, so he might be a good pick this week. Fleetwood has played 30 times on Bermuda greens. He's made the cut 88% of the time, and so forth. So it gives you 2 columns of information using these values within that column to compare players in the field. Now, one other thing that GolfIQ Matrix allows you to do is pick which values you want to use across all categories, not the categories themselves. So let me show you. Let's say, again, I want to look at top 10 percentage. And then let's say another value across all calories. I want to look at cuts made. And again, I come down here and click Go. So what we do here is we pull out those values from relevant categories. So in this case, we pulled out the top 10 percentage from the past 12 months, their career, majors, the month before and after, including the current month, the current season, the current greens type. This is an abbreviation for the greens type, Bermuda. We wanted to make sure we could fit everything on the screen. And then the current season. So I can look at I can now sort players by their top 10 percentage in Florida. I can sort players by their top 10 percentage on Bermuda greens. I can sort players by their top 10 percentage in the spring season, and so forth. And then the other number I used over here was cuts made percentage. So I can again do the same thing. I can see how players have done cuts made in March. And again, this shows me a lot of players that have made 100% of their cuts in March, how they've done by season, and how they've done by greens type. So again, that's a good way to look at slice and dice the actual players in the field using the detailed information from the player guide. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for watching. Now let's look at the GolfIQ DraftKings data. I'm on the GolfIQ homepage, golfiq.com. You can also get here by going to golfstats.com and click on GolfIQ Home. But I'm going to now look at GolfIQ DraftKings data. So we touched a little bit about this on the top 10 when explaining the top 10. The GolfIQ DraftKings data allows you to look at detail of all the data we collect from DraftKings for any individual player, the current field, or players based on their world ranking. We're going to look at the current field. So here we have the current field going into this week for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And for every player, they're sorted by alphabetically. Every player, we show their world rank, their DraftKings salary for this week, how many events they've played in the last 12 months, and the statistics we've compiled over the previous 12 months. Their low, average, and high salary, how many points they've earned per event, average points per event, the low points per event, average points per event, high points per event, total points, cost per point, meaning how much dollars you have to spend per point. Or another way to look at it is how many points they earn per $1,000 of DraftKings salary. That would be their ROI. And you can sort these columns just by clicking on any of the headers. So if I wanted to see over the past 12 months which players had the highest return on investment in DraftKings, meaning the highest number of points per $1,000 of salary, I just click on this column and I see going into this week, it's Taylor Moore, Jason Crack number 2, Sahith, and so forth. So that's a good way to gain some insight on the field. The top 10 does the same analysis, but it just uses the past 8 weeks. The other thing I can do is I can go look at individual players. So let's say I want to look at Taylor Gooch. So on an individual player sheet or page, you'll see a chart showing their points per 1,000 over the past 12 months. And you can see Taylor did a lot better back here, but his salary probably was adjusted, so now he's doing a less return on investment. Didn't have a good week last week. But here we'll show you the numbers we use to calculate the numbers that we collect from DraftKings. So for every week over the past 12 months, we have salary points, points per 1,000, and then these are all the values that DraftKings uses based on the player's performance in order to calculate their points. So that's it for the DraftKings data. Thank you for watching. Okay, now we're going to look at the last 2 items that are available currently under GolfIQ, and that's data download and